Hey all, Rob from RM Woodcraft here. Today we're going to be making some simple shaker doors out of oak. These just came out of glue up, so they're not sanded or anything. I did drill the hinges out, and they'll be going on this oak hutch that I'm making. So it'll be getting a set on the top and a set on the bottom along with a drawer. Now normally when I make shaker doors I put a little bead in there, but this set has to match an existing kitchen layout, so there won't be any bead on these. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so here I'm measuring a piece of oak that is 2.5 inches by 3/4 of an inch. We'll be using this to make the sides of the cabinet door and the top rails of the cabinet door. Now I'm going to be doing 4 doors. There's going to be 2 on the top of this hutch and 2 on the bottom of this hutch. So I'll need 8 pieces of sides and 8 tops to complete all 4 doors. Okay, for these doors, this oak panel, this 1/4 inch oak panel, is going to sit in a dado in the stiles. So you're going to just want to lay your door out the way you want it, mark it, and then mark which side the dado is going to go on so you don't get confused. So I lay it out in the orientation it's going to go into. I mark the tops, left, right, bottom, top, and then I just put a little mark on all of the dado edges so that when I take it over to the table saw to cut the dado in there for the panel to float in, I won't mess it up. Okay, here I have my 1/4 inch dado stack set up in my table saw, and I'm going to cut all of the dados into the tops and side rails for the cabinet doors. Now what I was just showing there is I have the faces marked, so the face goes out, and then I have that little scribble on the bottom where the dado is going to go. So a good tip here is to do all of the pieces for all of your doors all in the same go without moving the fence. I have 4 doors for this hutch, 2 top doors and 2 bottom doors, and I'm going to cut all 8 pieces in one go, because what can happen is if you cut a few of the rails or the tops in one setting and then you move the fence to do something else and you come back and cut the rest of the rails, it may not be in the exact same spot as before, and that will make getting the panels into the doors really difficult. So just good practice to do it all in one shot without moving your fence. Now also, if you're a little uncomfortable having your left hand go past the blade like I'm doing, I mean, I know the blade is a 1/4 inch back from the wood, but if you feel safer, just use a feather bolt for this. Okay, to cut the tenon that's going to go on the top rail that's going to slide into the side rails, I'm going to use the dado blade and the miter box again. I'm going to have a secondary fence that's set up the distance of my shoulder on the blade, and I'm going to use my miter gauge to just slide it across, and it's just going to take 2 passes. Okay, to measure for the oak panel, I'm going to go about 5/16 into the rail on both sides. The dado that I cut's about 3/8 of an inch, so there'll be a little room for it to expand and contract. The panel won't get glued. So I'll get my measurements and then cut up my panel. Here I'm using my track saw to cut the length and the width of the panel. You can use a table saw, or you can use a traditional circular saw with a straight edge. Just use whatever you're most comfortable with. I like using the track saw since it's already set up and ready to go. Okay, here I have my 4 pieces to the door laid out on the table. I'm gluing it up with, I think, Titebond 2. And I'm just gluing the tenons. You don't want to get glue in the dados where the panel is going to sit, because you want that panel to be able to move around in that door with the humidity changes in the seasons. If you glue it or you don't have that space for that panel to expand into, it could blow the joints out in the doors or buckle, and you don't want that. So I'm just spreading it out on the tenons with a glue brush, and that's going to be more than enough to hold the door together. You don't need anything more than that. I'm just showing to, check your orientation before you glue it up. Again, I have the faces of all my parts marked, so my faces are all up, and setting the top rail into the 2 sides, and I'm going to clamp it with just a little bit of pressure, just enough to get a little bit of a glue out or squeeze out there. And then you're just going to want to make sure you get the glue wiped off so it doesn't leave any shiny spots in your finish. And then also remember to slide your panel in before you glue up the bottom. I've made the mistake of going too fast and gluing my bottom in without realizing I didn't put the panel in. And if you don't get that bottom off real fast, it's kind of stuck forever. So just pay attention to what you're doing there. Again, I'm just going to put the glue on the tendons, and then I'm just going to clamp it with a little bit of clamping pressure. I'm probably going to clamp it to the table as well to keep it flat. We'll see in a second here. I don't remember if I did that or not, but I usually clamp it to the table. And then also I'm using those squares, 1 in each corner, just to keep it square. You don't want a racked door. I think I got those off of Amazon. They're the woodpecker knockoffs. I'm sure they were like a quarter of the price of the woodpecker. They're anodized aluminum. So here we go, getting the bottom in. Now this one was a little tighter, so I think I had to just tap it in a little. And you can see the glue is squeezing out. And now for a little clamping pressure and square. Just a little bit of pressure. You don't want to get too much pressure on there, because what happens is the more pressure you put on the clamps. Okay, we're clamped up now. Let's see, I do believe I clamp it to the table. For these to buckle up. And also you're going to want to get your glue squeeze out wiped off, so it doesn't stick to the table as well. And that's what I'm doing there. I'm just getting the glue squeeze out off the face, and I'm also going to wipe the bottom so that it doesn't stick to the table. And then we'll come back, we'll clamp it to the table to keep it all flat. Sometimes, when you put the clamps on, it wants to pull the edges of those stiles up a little bit, so it's always good to clamp it to the table or use a clamping caul. I like to just clamp it to the table. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I'll show you once I unclamp it. All right. Okay, so these are the doors out of glue up. I've already identified my hinge side, which is this side here. And to do my hinges, I like using the little Craig jig. This works really nice and easy. All you have to do is find your location, clamp it to the workpiece. You can drill your holes for your hinge screws, and then you drill the mortise out to accept the hinge itself. Okay, so I'm all clamped down. I'm going to drill my screw holes for my hinges. attach the mortising bit. This just locks in like that. Now this does make a bit of a mess, so it's good to have some dust collection running while you do it. So here we go. Okay, that's pretty much all there is to it. Pop this off, and then I'll grab a hinge, and there we go. Sits right in, nice and neat. You can see the screw holes. There we go. Okay, with the chamfering bit set up in my router, and I think I have it set to about 3/16 of an inch, so I'm going to put a little chamfer around all of the doors. For this, you just you want to go slow. Just pay attention to the direction of the blade, and especially when you get to the corners, you don't want to get any tear out in the corners. So just go slow, and again, just pay attention to the rotation of the router bits. That end grain can chip out pretty easy, so take your time going around the corners. And I'm going to do all 4 doors like this, and also the drawer faces too. I'm going to put a little chamfer around the edge. Looks like I'm going really slow here. Reposition to get the corner. I also have this sitting on a sanding mat. It grips the your project pretty well, so you don't have to worry about it moving around. You can also clamp it to a table as well. I just don't like to have to reposition the clamp, so I like to use the sanding pad. Okay, there we go, all 4 sides. It's going to be a little bit hard to see here, but there's a 3/16 chamfer on all 4 edges. Okay, everybody's favorite bit, sanding. Yeah, I don't like sanding much. You can tell. Look how excited I am to be doing it. And I have to do this, 4 more times. Try not to fall asleep. Oh, little face sanding going on there. Yes, that feels good. Nice and smooth. Okay, sanding's done. On to finishing. Now, most everything I do, I finish with an oil hard wax, Rubio or Osmo. I've done a few pieces where it just got a clear shellac on it, but I never stain. I don't like to stain. I don't know, I just feel like it's a big risk. When you spend a lot of time making a nice piece of furniture, you don't know how it's going to take a stain. Some bits of wood absorb more of the stain, some less. It can look blotchy. I'd rather just see the natural color of the wood. But for this hutch, I have to match someone's existing kitchen, and they have, the traditional golden oak look to it. So I'm using an amber shellac for this, and this went horribly wrong. So it went on pretty good. Actually, I think what I'm showing here is my 2nd or 3rd attempt. The first time I did it with a brush, and what was happening is it was drying as fast as I was putting it on. I think it was about 80 degrees in my garage, and this stuff was drying like within a minute. And as you can see here, it looks terrible. It's blotchy. I didn't have time to even it out with the brush because it was drying so fast it was getting sticky. So yep, I had to sand it all back down. And then what I found is if I took the shellac and I mixed it by 50% with denatured alcohol, and then I put it back on with a cloth. It came out much better, much more even, and I just did 2 or 3 coats that way. Okay, so here's the finished product on the doors. All I need to do is get some hardware on it, and she'll be done. Thanks for watching.